Welcome to the Six Soul Sisters podcast, a collective of women creating community through deep conversation.
Welcome to the Six Soul Sisters podcast. We've got like half of us here today, but we were going to just chat about how we each deal with self-soothing, essentially, like what we do, how we care for ourselves when we're hurting, when times are rough. So yeah, we started because we were all just talking. We live in Vancouver area, and we were talking about how it's super rainy and gross out, and Sarah and I definitely, and Allie, I think you said too, like some seasonal affective issues for sure. Yeah. So it kind of prompted the conversation, so we thought we'd start recording it. So I know for like that in specific, like in the wintertime, I definitely feel like I double down on a lot of my like self-care practices, like sitting in front of a sad light with my coffee every morning and normally reading. Like I'm a big believer of energy in before energy out in a day. Like, have you guys heard that term before? Yeah.
I don't necessarily follow it.
Yeah.
I should, but you know.
I definitely don't either. Like there's definitely mornings where I'm up at like 5:30 in the morning for work, and it's like there's no way I'm getting up 20 minutes earlier just to do this energy in thing. Like they're getting what they get. I'm getting what I have. Like that's all. But yeah. So what are some self-care practices that you have, Allie?
Well, I mean, yoga's a big one. I fell in love with the practice when I was, moved out on my own for the first time, like starting a new job, really just a scared little girl. And, that was a shining light that came into my life, gets those endorphins moving, makes me actually connect with my body and, leave all my troubles for a while. I sure do journal a lot. Got a lot of feelings. I need to sort through them all, and so that's always good. And I have this friend who is absolutely one of the most healthy, productive human beings I have ever met. He has taught me so much about like how to be a functional, healthy adult. And so just from hanging out with him, like we always hang out and do face masks and like body scrubs together and like make little things like that. And whenever we hang out, he's always like, well, what do you want to do? Let's like go on a hike. Let's make Christmas cards or whatever. And so it's just a lot of things like that I have to remind myself to do as well, because those things really make me feel good. And then connection aside, I still like doing them. But it definitely gets difficult when it's when you're in the hard times, right? Because then I don't want to do anything.
Right? Yeah, you just kind of want to lay in bed and just ignore that life is there. Life is around.
I always know things are getting really hard when Instagram will pop up with that notification, like, you've been on this app for like 3 hours and 11 minutes today, and I'm like, okay, like something right here.
Yeah, I definitely just put on like screen time allowances on my iPhone, because I was just like, same thing, like if I'll definitely kill time on social media when I'm just not feeling the motivation to go and do something, because I'm in the shit. But so I had to set screen time apps. Like I'm like, I cannot be trusted. Like I definitely need to limit how often I'm allowed on Instagram and Facebook, because I will not control myself.
Do you do that though? Like you always are like, oh, you're out of time, enter your passcode for 15 more minutes, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm the boss of me.
I do, it's pretty new, my screen time, so so far I've been pretty good about following them, but there's definitely every once in a while where I'm like, but it's even just a reminder for me of okay, maybe it's time to put it down for a little bit, but there's definitely times where I'm like, 15 more minutes is fine.
I know, right? I put the allowance on too, just so that I know how long I've been on it, and then I don't get mad at myself if I'm like, okay, 15 more minutes. I need to check to see if someone's messaged me back on Instagram, because that's the crappy thing is when it's blocked out, and if someone's messaging you on Instagram, I'm like, oh, I gotta see if they message me back. So then that's
For me, a lot of it too is just more about creating the awareness of what I was doing, because it does force me to take that pause. But I also noticed that I was waking up, and my phone is my alarm clock, so I'd wake up and it's now in my hands. So first thing I was doing was checking social media, and late at night when I was not feeling productive anymore, instead of just going to bed at a reasonable hour, or like doing something I actually enjoy, like reading a book, I would just get caught in these like wormholes of social media. So it wasn't just like an app allowance, it's also like my phone shuts itself down at 9 p.m. and like won't allow me to use the apps again until 8 a.m. So it's just like these solid, so I can ask for 15 more minutes here and there if I want to, but it's like just mostly like an awareness tool.
Okay, fair enough. No, I always feel like such a failure. I had to take those off because I'm like, honestly, I'm just like mad at myself.
Right.
Aww.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Different mindsets around it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I just, you know, like my life is so hectic. Like being in school and working and running a household and like, you know, having a daughter. Like, there's always something that I should be doing that is not social media, like at any given point. So I just like, I honestly get mad and disappointed when I know how long I've spent on it. Plus, I just quit smoking.
Oh, good for you.
Ugh.
That's amazing.
It's a trying time.
Yeah.
But what I would do is I would go out for a smoke and then like scroll while I was smoking, because I mean like that's gross. Like I'm not just gonna sit there and smoke. Like who am I? And so I'd be doing them both. And so like, you know, if you're going out for, you know, X amount of cigarettes a day, like you're racking up that time. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd come back inside and it would still be like in my hand.
Right? Yeah. It's the immediacy of it that's so tempting. Yeah. I was pretty judgy of myself a while ago around like my app use and like getting hard on myself with like same thing, like there's so many other more productive things that you can be doing, and like how are you claiming that you don't have time to do this, that, and the next thing when you've spent like 2 hours on Instagram today? Like, you know, clearly you have time, you're just making excuses. So yeah, I definitely had to have like a little bit of a perception shift, but also just getting like, I think I just got stricter with myself as well. There's a great Liz Gilbert quote who she's like, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something to the effect of like, change only happens when someone finally gets tired of their own bullshit. And I was just like, oh, I'm tired of like hearing myself whine about this. So my mom's saying is shit or get off the pot. So it's just like, okay, either change it or let it go. Like either accept that you're like a ridiculous Instagram user or change it. But like riding myself over it and making myself feel worse, like I already have enough things to feel bad about. Like it's been 2018 to 2019 has been like hard years for me. So it's like you have enough shit to feel bad about. Like you don't need to make yourself feel bad about your Instagram use as well, right? So yeah, I had to be a little kinder to myself on that.
Well, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I think there's enough things that we beat ourselves up on that we don't need to like add anything else to the pile. But
all right, so not necessarily things that we fault ourselves for. What do you guys do to take care of yourselves when things are going real awry?
Oh my god. It's hard to say because like this month has just been kind of like blah ever since dance ended.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
The glitter crash.
Yeah, it's like it's hanging on for dear life and it won't let go. And I don't know. It's really weird because this is my like third like winter time of like being finished dance, and it hasn't hit me as bad as like it had. Maybe I think it like ended a little bit earlier than normal or something. And like dance was my Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday nights. So now like, and dance is kind of where I go to let loose and let the emotions out and let all the feels out because like I'm letting it out through my body kind of thing, right? And so without that, and I got a cold after the show, which like this cough is just still sticking around. So it's like, so I don't know, I've just been feeling really blah, and then like going to work and coming home and just sleeping on the couch doing nothing really, and I'm like, oh cool, like I really need to do some more like self-love, like you know, that sort of thing. So when I am in like a good place, like I listen to like a nighttime meditation before I go to bed, you know, like I don't watch TV before I go to bed, and I do like my meditation, I get ready for bed, like maybe I'll like wash my face and like do like a nice mask or like, you know, things like that, like take care of like, I don't know, my body, and then I'll do like a meditation before bed, and then that eases me into sleep. I usually like fall asleep through it, but I'm like, subconscious gets the rest, you know, right? So, but lately this whole month I've just been like, no, Netflix, bed. Like, I gotta get out of this cycle, right?
It's funny how when like we need the self-care the most is when we tend to stop. And like
Yeah.
as you were talking about that, it like reminded me, because I teach Pilates as well, and it's very like a breath-based like movement, and I coach fitness as well. But in all of those instances, it's like people tend to hold their breath during exertion, right? When like we really need to be using our breath to find strength. And it's like the same thing in our lives. Like when things are hard, we tend to like hold our like hypothetical breath and just like and not care for ourselves, right? And then it's like, oh, we're good. That's when we're doing all the things. But yeah, it's interesting to like I don't really know why we do that. I just think that's really interesting that like when we need it the most is when we tend to almost like give up on ourselves a little bit, right? Like
I know this wasn't the point of your story, but Pilates is no joke. I did a class with my friend the other day. She invited me to do like a video of Pilates, and I was like, like I pole dance, I do stilts, like I'm a hand balancer, like I'm a yogi, like this is no sweat. I'm gonna be, oh my god, like that's my cause of death.
Pilates is no joke.
But like sometimes all you need like for self-care too is like just a little reset. Like things have been not chill like the past couple weeks in my self-care. I've been neglecting it and not putting myself first, and really just kind of been on like one speed, go autopilot and letting things slide. But I went to the spa a couple days ago, which is like, like a little splurge here and there. Finally, to finish my semester that ended a couple months ago, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And I went, and I have been like pretty on it since that day. Like the past 3 days I've been pretty good. And so I'm like, okay, like I just needed a little bit of inspiration there to get back on that horse.
Yeah, that little reset button.
Outside of myself.
And like even recognizing seasons maybe too, right? Like I know that like this year for a lot of people, but for myself was kind of like a shitty year. And I came into it like, New Year's of 2019 being like, this year's gonna be amazing. And it wasn't. Like it was pretty much like a year of just survival. Right? And so I had to be kind to myself and realize like, okay, well when you're just trying to survive and you're just trying to get through, like you maybe don't actually have the energy or the time or whatever to be doing all the things. And so it's okay if like I don't think I've hit my yoga mat in probably like 6 months, and I used to be a very avid yogi, and I haven't meditated in probably just as long, and that's one of my big practices. And I was just like, oh man, like I could feel really bad about this, I could guilt myself about this, but I know, like also have to recognize that I just didn't have it in me, and then that's okay. But now kind of I'm transitioning into a season where it's like, okay, I actually feel like I really miss those things, and they brought a lot of value to my life, and I'm gonna find a way to fit them in. But also realizing that it's okay if my meditation practice is 5 minutes right now instead of like the former 20, and it's okay if I'm doing yoga at home on like a computer screened video thing, and not going to class. Like that's okay as well. I just kind of make it what I need. But
I like that point a lot because I've been thinking lately about how when I first got into yoga, like it was really something to deal with my trauma and my mental illness and to find that mindfulness, and it was really about healing for me. And I got kind of bored of it after a while, and then when I started doing the silks and doing pole, like I needed something physical that was like training. And so my mindset just around moving my body in general has moved from this like mindfulness healing practice to like training, getting better, like precision, like and I was thinking about it just like the other week, and I was like, man, like that's a real shame, because I miss that mindfulness and that healing practice and how I used to think about it, because now even when I hit my mat, I'm like thinking